If you only watch one video in this whole program, this is the one to watch. So I see patients from all over the world, all over the US, with all different health challenges in my private practice. And this is probably the number one thing they all overlook: blood sugar balance. So if you fatigue after meals, if you crave sweets, if you're irritable when meals are missed, if you depend on coffee, if you have difficulty losing weight, if you can't fall asleep, if you can't stay asleep, if you wake up tired, if you have afternoon fatigue, then really listen to this video. All of these signs are signs that you do not have stable blood sugar. Stable blood sugar is like the foundation to your house that so many metabolic processes and enzyme processes are dependent on, including energy, sleep, mood, cognitive function, muscle movement, and so much more. So what is blood sugar? So the human body contains approximately 5 liters of blood. This amounts to about 4 grams of sugar in the blood, which is less than a teaspoon of sugar. Normal blood glucose on a lab is usually less than 100 mg/dL, which is about 1 teaspoon. For someone to be diagnosed with diabetes, their fasting blood sugar on that same lab is a glucose over 126, which actually only amounts to about 1 1/4 teaspoon. So as you can see, the amount of sugar in our bloodstream is very carefully regulated. The difference between being healthy and having a blood sugar of under 100 and being diagnosed as diabetic with a blood sugar of 126 is only the difference of 1/4 of a teaspoon. When you choose foods that are simple and processed, the faster they are digested, the faster they get released into your bloodstream. For example, soda. Lots high sugar content, doesn't take much to digest it. It's going to be in your bloodstream very fast. Your body panics and it doesn't want your blood glucose to get too high, so it releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's like a taxi cab. It shuttles sugar from your bloodstream into your cells so that your cells can use it for energy. So when you're young, this process works very efficiently. If I give my young boys cake, soda, or candy, they immediately get a boost of energy because this pathway in their body works really well. They're able to just produce insulin, shuttle their sugar into their cells, and have energy. Same applies for endurance athletes that carbo load before a big race or a big event. If they do carbs or they consume goo, their body is able to shuttle that into their cells for energy, and then they have energy and fuel for their event. But what if you eat simple processed carbs day after day, month after month, year after year? What if you slowly become less active over time? Your cells will gradually become what we call insulin resistant, meaning they no longer respond to insulin the same way. They no longer open up and let the sugar in your cells. And when this happens, you do not let sugar in, and therefore you do not end up with having energy. When we develop insulin resistance, sugar will then begin to build up in our bloodstream. Remember, your body doesn't want your sugar level in your bloodstream to get up to 126, so as a last attempt to keep sugar in the normal range, your body will convert sugar to fat, storing it away for later use. This is the exact mechanism why we gain weight from eating carbs versus having energy. So remember, carbs are not bad, but we have to be accountable for the amount of carbs we eat in conjunction with our exercise levels. If you wake up and you have oatmeal and then you hit the gym before work, this may be totally appropriate level of carbs, and not only appropriate but necessary for your body and your activity for the day. However, if you're going to eat oatmeal and then add granola and honey and fruit and sit at a desk all day, your body may not need that many carbs for that amount of activity. So here's a question I know you all are thinking: how many carbs do I eat? The answer is unique to each person. If you fatigue after meals, if you crave sugar after meals, if you need caffeine after meals, it's a sign that your body has had too many carbs based on your activity level and your insulin status. When carbs and sugar get into cells, you feel good. Remember, when the carbs and sugar go into your cells, you have energy. When you have insulin resistance and can't get the sugar into your cells, not only is no energy produced, but it actually takes energy to convert that sugar into the stored fat, and so you end up feeling tired. This leaves you in a state of fatigue after a meal. So craving sugar and craving caffeine is another sign of tiredness after meals. With insulin resistance, you need to adjust your carbs and sugar so that you do not fatigue after meals. This may mean decreasing carbs a little, or it may mean decreasing them a lot. If you are having a meal with no carbs and sugar and you're still experiencing fatigue after the meal, then you need to decrease your portion size and have 4 to 5 small meals a day rather than 3 larger ones. This can take time, but your body can become sensitive and responsive to insulin again. So what are the best carb choices? Choosing carbs like starchy vegetables like squash and sweet potato or fruit added fiber and nutrients that are beneficial for your body. Avoiding carbs like bread, chips, pasta, sweets, candy, desserts are for sure the carbs you want to avoid. I don't recommend sweeteners as well, natural or artificial. Studies have shown that there is an insulin response when you taste something sweet, whether it's sugar, sweet and low, Splenda, sugar in the raw, honey, agave, or stevia. You can still produce an insulin response day after day, month after month, over time, which can lead to insulin resistance. Ultimately, you have to listen to your body and choose foods that keep your blood sugar balanced. So let's use an example. If you were to have soda, sweets, candy, what will happen is that these are easily processed and broken down by the body. And the body is not sure if you're having a sip of soda or did you supersize it. And with processed carbs, the body tends to overproduce insulin, taking too much sugar out of the bloodstream and dropping the blood sugar low. This crash in blood sugar can happen an hour to 2 hours after eating. And when your blood sugar crashes, your body will send your cravings for more sugar, because the easiest way to raise your blood sugar back up is to have more sugar. And if you listen to your body and listen to your cravings, the cycle repeats and you're on the blood sugar roller coaster all day long. Where you have carbs, your body produces insulin, the insulin drops that blood sugar, you crash, and then you get cravings. And then your body wants more carbs, and you end up on this roller coaster all day long. It's really hard to get off of it and really challenging not to listen to your cravings. I don't recommend this. The other option is to eat foods that are more balanced, combining protein and fat if you're going to have a carb. For example, chicken breast, veggies, and half a sweet potato. The carbs in the sweet potato are slowly released because of the starchiness and fiber found in the sweet potato, combined with the fat and the protein from the chicken. And they are slowly broken down. The carbs or sugar are slowly released into your bloodstream, and this creates less of a roller coaster effect. And by the time your blood sugar starts to drop, it's time for another meal or snack. This is ideal. Lastly, remember, your cells will burn carbohydrates before they will burn fat. This is the whole premise behind keto, removing carbs and sugar so that the body will burn fat. The laser will release fat from your cells, but if you're consuming too many carbohydrates or sugar, your body will prioritize processing the carbs before it processes the fat, and your laser sessions will be less effective. When you're filling out your daily practices checklist, please take time to assess your carbs and sugar. It can be really eye-opening to see how quickly they add up, how they can make us insulin resistant over time, causing carbs to be stored as fat rather than burned as fuel. Let's talk about blood sugar a little bit more. So we talked about insulin resistance from constant carbs and sugar, day after day, month after month, year after year. We talked about how carbs and sugar put us on the blood sugar roller coaster, creating cravings throughout the day. We talked about how to match our carb intake with our activity level, and how feeling fatigue after meals is a symptom of eating more carbs than your body actually needs. But let's take this one step further. There are actually 4 ways to become insulin resistant. Too much carbs and sugar, but also too little carbs and sugar or food in general, inflammation, and cortisol. So one can become insulin resistant from eating too little. It sounds crazy, but skipping meals will actually cause your body to kick in with hormones, including insulin, looking for sugar to keep you going. This done day after day can create the same pattern of insulin resistance. Inflammation also bombards the receptors in your cells, making you insulin resistant. And lastly, stress, through a hormone called cortisol, will make you insulin resistant, making it harder to lose weight. While many people are truly insulin resistant because of too many carbs day after day, many people are insulin resistant because of a combination of 1, 2, 3, or even all 4. Maybe someone has chronically high stress and sometimes skips lunch and they regularly eat sweets. Or maybe someone else has an autoimmune condition that generates inflammation, and while they eat clean foods, they don't eat enough fat or protein to stabilize their blood sugar. Any combination of too much, too little, inflammation and stress can lead to insulin resistance over time. So along with making sure that you do not fatigue after meals from the amount of carbs and sugar you're consuming, I also want you to follow the following blood sugar balance suggestions. Please eat breakfast within an hour of waking up to stabilize your blood sugar. No skipping meals. And snacks should be protein, fat, and fiber based. This is a tablespoon of a nut butter, a few almonds, half an avocado. It's not an entire meal, but we want it to be protein and fat based. Have your last meal by 8 p.m. However, if you have trouble staying asleep throughout the night, sometimes having a protein or fat dense snack will help stabilize your blood sugar, allowing you to sleep through the night. Make sure to keep your carbs purposeful. They should complement a meal, not be a meal, like a bagel or a bowl of pasta. And that carbohydrates stimulate the release of insulin, and if they're not used right away as fuel, they'll be stored as fat in your body. So it's important to think about your activity level for the day when consuming carbs. The more processed, the simpler the carb, the greater the insulin response. And lastly, remember that protein and fat stimulate the production of hormones, which send you a message to stop eating. And they also help turn off the hormone for appetite, which triggers the sense of fullness.